Chapter 1656 Yi Futian the Conman? Chapter 1656 Yi Futian the Conman? Yi Futian looked at all the forces coming towards him. All of them bore him some sort of grudge, making them very unhappy with him. They would not let this chance get away from them. "You are all being unreasonable," came a voice. Yi Futian turned and saw a cultivator step out. He looked at the crowd and said, "Common people can only cultivate to seek the way, while we of the top forces had the chance to compete fairly at the God's Relic. Many of you had grand adventures there. You are all leaders of top forces. Don't you think it is shameful to bully someone who has just reached the Renhuang level like this?" Yi Futian looked at the man who was speaking. He was from Shangxiao Divine Palace. Yi Futian had once entered the ancestral land of the Divine Palace, making it so that he had a natural affinity with them. However, he was still moved by someone from the Divine Palace speaking on his behalf. "The predatory nature of the world of cultivation has never changed," said one of the top cultivators of the Sky Demon Court. "Both the worlds of demons and humans. It was just that the demon world was more direct about it, and humans were a bit more polite. For example, the vice headmaster of the Sky Reaching School had called him nephew, saying that he would trade for the treasures. In reality, he was just trying to seize things for himself. "You all are indeed bullying him," said a cultivator from the Dragon Gods. Some cultivators from the Divine Elephants strode forward as well. Suddenly, there were quite a few people standing behind Yi Futian. They had not cooperated with the Golden Divine Realm previously. The enmity between Yi Futian and the Heavenly Mandate dynasty had originally been put aside, but these people were now taking advantage of the situation. They could not stand for it. Many of the forces of the Heavenly Mandate realm had obtained treasures and had direct connections to Yi Futian. They could not just sit by and watch this happen to him. However, the other forces just swept cold gazes over the cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate realm. Although there were many of them, there were not enough. At that moment, the number of forces who wanted divine arms for themselves was extremely great. And there were many powers there from the most powerful realm, like the Central Imperial Realm. The Shen clan had been there all along, watching everything like a tiger watching its prey. They naturally did not have any good feelings towards Yi Futian. After all, he was the disciple of the Sky River Great Elder. In addition to this, the Martial Gods clan, the Celestial Worthy Temple, and the Sky Reaching School each had very powerful formations. Yi Futian knew that if he wanted to get out of here in one piece, he would need several powerful forces to speak up for him. "Elder," Yi Futian called towards a man in the distance. There were many heroic figures around him, such as Jian Qingzhu. They came from Tianshan Academy. The cultivator from Tianshan Academy furrowed his brow, a look of surprise coming over his face. He answered telepathically, "Do you have something to say to me? I have heard that Tianshan Academy is the premier holy land for cultivation in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Once this is all over, several friends and I would like to go there to seek the way for a time. Would that be possible?" asked Yi Futian. Tianshan Academy was indeed the foremost holy land for cultivation. There must have been many cultivators there with powerful spells. When he had time, he would bring Yu Xing, Xia Qingyuan, Yaya, and some others there to spend some time shut away in cultivation. The elder from Tianshan Academy looked surprised at this. When all this was over, the question now was whether or not Yi Futian would be able to escape in one piece. Was he asking them for help? Given Yi Futian's talent that had allowed him to forge a perfect divine wheel, there was no question that he would be able to get into Tianshan Academy. And his friends would probably be powerful as well. I was immersed in celestial radiance along with Jian Qingzhu and the others from Tianshan Academy, all of us gaining an opportunity from heaven. Thus, I want to spend some time devoted to cultivation. I also gained some ritual implements in the God's Relic. If you permit my friends and me to come to Tianshan Academy and cultivate, I will not be stingy with them. I am willing to give out 10 of them as a reward, letting you choose which types you want. We can allow this. And my friends and I will pass the test of the classics just like our own disciples. The 10 ritual implements could be said to be an initial investment, but it was conditional. The first condition was that they needed to extricate themselves from the present situation, And the second was that Yi Futian would be able to bring some other with him to Tianshan Academy. The other thing was, how long would he cultivate at Tianshan Academy? For that whole time, the danger he was in would face the whole academy. Thus, they needed this initial investment. Right now, the only thing he had in abundance was ritual implements. He did not want to give any of them to those forces who wanted to forcibly take them from him. But it was either give them up or lose his life. Why not share some of them out to save himself? 10. A look of surprise came over the elder from Tianshan Academy's face. He understood that Yi Futian was sacrificing a lot to escape. You can choose the first one on the way, said Yi Futian. Very well, answered the elder. However, there are many forces who want your ritual implements. Even though I have agreed, the others will not necessarily allow us to leave. I understand. Your promise is enough, elder, answered Yi Futian. Their thoughts were exchanged extremely quickly, so this all happened very quickly. But even so, many people looked shocked when they saw Yi Futian standing there in a daze. He seemed to be struggling and hesitant. I have often heard your name spoken, said Yi Futian to Emperor Nan telepathically. He guessed that Emperor Nan was the strongest of the people gathered here today. This powerful figure from the Nantian Divine Kingdom had come personally in order to pick up Nan Luotian. The other top forces of the Central Imperial Realm had not come in such power. Thus, as far as Yi Futian was concerned, Emperor Nan was the most important person here in the God's Relic right now. Moreover, he had not been trying to steal his treasures. He had just been watching from the side. Emperor Nan looked at him when he heard his telepathic message. If you have something to say, just say it. He knew that this man wanted him to help him. Okay, said Yi Futian telepathically. Previously, I consulted with the elder of Tianshan Academy. After this affair is over, I will go and study there for a time. I will have a great appreciation for the people of the Central Imperial Realm. Princess Luotian performed admirably in the God's Relic. If I had a chance, I would like to give her some advice. I obtained some ritual implements in the God's Relic, of which I would be willing to give 5 to her. Emperor Nan was a powerful figure, so he didn't necessarily need any ritual implements. But Nan Luotian was relatively weak, and so ritual implements would be incredibly precious for her. Moreover, Emperor Nan doted upon his daughter. In addition, since Tianshan Academy had already made their decision, Emperor Nan now had this chance to make his answer as well. Emperor Nan looked deeply at Yi Futian. This man could not bear to part with his treasures, but he knew that he had to make sacrifices in a situation like this. Thus, he had promised treasures to Tianshan Academy and the Nantian Divine Kingdom in order to ask for their help. Fine, if Tianshan Academy is also willing, I will help you break free of this situation, answered Emperor Nan. Since he was after Tianshan Academy, he had a chance to see if Yi Futian was tricking them. If he wasn't being honest, then he wouldn't have to help him. Thank you, Your Highness, said Yi Futian with a nod. Now that 2 great forces had agreed to help him, things were looking better. Nephew Yi, why don't you give us your answer? Said the vice headmaster of the Sky-Reaching School. Given the current situation, there was no point in delaying anymore. Yi Futian looked at the vice headmaster of the Sky-Reaching School. 3 of the great powers of the Central Emperor Realm had already been pulled into this: the Yuanyang clan, Tianshan Academy, and the Nantian Divine Kingdom. Their current formation was very strong. Goddess Xiao, he said telepathically. This time, his target was Xiao Muyu of the Xiao clan. A look of surprise came over her face when she heard this. She cast a cold glance at Yi Futian and asked telepathically, "What are you doing?" This man had not been the least bit polite before. He had given her divine lotus spear to Xia Qingyuan. Now he spoke to her so sweetly. Was he going to promise to become her son-in-law? I have offended you greatly. In order to make up for it, I will give you 3 ritual implements, answered Yi Futian. Xiao Muyu's gaze hardened. Did he think that was enough? Was he trying to get them to help him? I'm afraid we will not be able to help you in this situation, said Xiao Muyu. Don't worry, goddess. I have already convinced Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan to help me. As long as you stand behind them, it will be enough. I will repay you for that with 3 ritual implements, said Yi Futian. Xiao Muyu looked at Yi Futian. He had actually convinced Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan? If he had the Shao clan behind him as well, he could really get out of this. But why had he chosen her? It had been simple for Yi Futian to choose her. Although there was bad blood between them and Xiao Muyu did not like him, the Shao clan had still not directly gotten involved. Under that situation, he was willing to give her 3 ritual implements, which would make them a bit more powerful. After all, the Shao clan, the Martial Gods clan, the Sky-Reaching School, the Celestial Worthy Temple, and the Shun clan all came from the Central Imperial Realm. Xiao Muyu thought for a moment, then answered telepathically, "I will try." Obviously, she did not have the right to decide. She had to ask her elder. "Good, thank you, goddess," said Yi Futian. Xiao Muyu looked at him. Right now, he was speaking very kindly. Obviously, he wasn't trying to seduce her or anything, right? After Yi Futian and Xiao Muyu spoke, he turned to Gui Zong of the Mountain Realm and said telepathically, "Master, the 2 of us have a connection. I have many ritual implements, and I am willing to give 2 of them to you." What? Gui Zong was dumbfounded by this. He looked at Yi Futian with his golden eyes. "Do you need Tianxian Temple to save you?" he asked. "If you wish. I saw you under the divine tree back then, and could feel that it was fated. It is good that I have many ritual implements. If I get out of here, I will let you choose 2 of them, with no exceptions," said Yi Futian. He was living like a conman. Tianxian Temple was the greatest temple in the Mountain Realm, and would be able to crush the Xinxing clan later. Excellent. Gui Zong put his hands together and bowed to Yi Futian. "Goddess Chang 11, you shocked everyone in the God's Relic with your magnificence, and all the women in the world envy you. After today, I will be willing to give you 2 ritual implements," Yi Futian said telepathically to Chang 11 of Yueyue Divine Palace. Yueyue Divine Palace was the most powerful force in the Shadow Realm along with Yi Man's Snow Divine Kingdom. Chang 11 looked at Yi Futian. She had shocked everyone, and everyone envied her? You do not need to think too much. I don't need an answer yet. As long as I leave here alive, I will fulfill my promise, continued Yi Futian. Brilliant light shone from Chang 11. She stood there like a goddess of 9 heavens. A look of surprise flashed in her eyes. Did this man have some intentions towards her? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1657 solved by taking advantage of the situation. Chapter 1657 solved by taking advantage of the situation. It was no wonder that Chang 11 would be thinking this. If Yi Futian had asked her to help him, she would be able to understand that. However, Yi Futian had just spoken several sentences full of admiration for her and had said that he would give her several ritual implements for free. This made her speechless. In that case, thank you, Lord Yi, she answered. The white-haired young man before her was a powerful figure, but who knew if he would be able to extricate himself from his current situation? Nephew Yi, so many people are waiting for you. Why don't you talk to us? Said the vice-headmaster of the Sky-Reaching School with a little bit of coldness in his voice. Was he delaying? Why was he being silent? The great battle in the air had been inconclusive for a while, and even now that Yi Futian had won, he had found himself in this present situation. It was not good that he was facing so many top forces. All right, said Yi Futian with a nod. Since you mentioned it, I will naturally not refuse you. In that case, why don't we trade right now? Tell me which ritual implements you want. However, the divine arms are precious, and the items you trade them for must be the treasures of your clan. What is the strongest cultivation technique of the Sky-Reaching School? The vice-headmaster's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard this. A cold light shot out of them. He wanted the strongest cultivation method of the Sky-Reaching School in trade? Was he dreaming? The other top forces all seem unconcerned. This man was a genius who had forged a perfect divine wheel. He certainly was well aware of the situation he was facing. I am your master's old friend, and thus I call you nephew. I wish to help you escape, but if you are going to be like this, I'm afraid I won't be able to, said the vice-headmaster of the Sky-Reaching School calmly, as if he really had Yi Futian's best interests in mind. Old friends? Yi Futian could feel the sarcasm rising within him. When one was in dire straits, it was much easier to see people's true faces. When his master had married a daughter of the Shin clan, they had probably been good friends then. Now that he had stabbed his friend in the back twice, he was not being even the least bit polite. "In that case, what do you wish to trade?" asked Yi Futian. "You have just entered the Renhuang Plain. I will trade things that will be useful to your cultivation," said the vice-headmaster of the Sky-Reaching School. This was highway robbery. "Is that so?" said Yi Futian with a smile. "Do you really think I need techniques of that level? Why don't you have your disciples try me? If any of your lower-level Renhuangs can beat me, I will accept this." The cultivators of the Sky-Reaching School were gradually losing patience. Was he playing dumb? "In that case, you're on your own," said the vice-headmaster. "Thank you, master. If this is the way it is, then I won't trade," said Yi Futian. He looked at the others and said, "I will remember all of your goodwill." A look of surprise came over everyone's face. Did Yi Futian think this was finished? "Enough, why do you feel the need to bully a junior like this?" At that moment, a group of figures approached them. They were the cultivators from Tianshan Academy. The one at their head looked at Yi Futian and the others and said, "According to Jian Qingzhu, many people forged perfect divine wheels on this trip to the God's Relic. This is a gift from the great emperor. We are a place of cultivation for all the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. It is good that all of you are here now, as we are pleased to extend an invitation to all of the proud sons of heaven here to come to Tianshan Academy for a sparring session. If we get a chance, we will definitely come," said many of the people from top forces, nodding. Many of them wanted to go and see Tianshan Academy. "Excellent," said the elder of Tianshan Academy with a nod. "Yi Futian, you have forged a perfect divine wheel. You may come to Tianshan Academy whenever you want and test out our disciples." "I will certainly do so," said Yi Futian with a bow. "Great," said the elder with a nod. This scene stunned many of the people from top forces. What did this mean? Things were not finished here, and yet Tianshan Academy was inviting Yi Futian to go there and cultivate? Luoshan has also always wanted to go to Tianshan Academy. "Since you are giving out invitations, can she go as well?" asked Emperor Nan. "Nan Luoshan is incredibly talented. If she is willing to join us, she is certainly welcome. I'm sure our disciples would be happy to have her," said the elder with a smile. Nan Luoshan was thought to be one of the most outstanding women in the Central Emperor realm. Whether it was due to her talent or due to her looks, she would be welcome in Tianshan Academy. "Excellent," said Emperor Nan with a slight nod. "There have been many conflicts during this trip to the God's Relic, but those are all in the past, and we don't need to pursue them any farther. Now that Tianshan Academy has made this invitation, we can all send our disciples there. The future of the world of cultivators will eventually be placed in their generation's hands." The elder from Tianshan Academy continued speaking with Emperor Nan, making the battlefield all around them fall silent. Was Emperor Nan speaking on Yi Futian's behalf as well? The words of Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan carried a lot of weight here, especially Emperor Nan, who was the strongest person here. Moreover, the top forces of the Central Emperor realm would not lightly offend Emperor Nan. After all, without some major conflict, who would dare offend someone who stood at the peak of the realm? But Yi Futian did not know either Emperor Nan or the elder of Tianshan Academy. So why would they speak on his behalf? Could it be? When they thought of this, their faces turned uncomfortable. Had Yi Futian been asking for help during his silence? If that was the case, had they just played the role of matchmaker between Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan? Not only were Emperor Nan and Tianshan Academy doing a good thing, but they might also get some ritual implements out it. "After this trip is over, I will not stop you from going wherever you wish to go, nephew Yi," said the vice-headmaster of the Sky-Reaching School. Were Tianshan Academy and the Nantian Divine Kingdom going to take all the spoils for themselves? "You are the Sky River Great Elder's friend, so why would you try to seize his disciple anyway? You are not acting as an elder should. You have lost some prestige today." At that moment, another voice rang out. Everyone turned to see who it was. It was a cultivator of the Shao clan. There were many opportunities within the God's Relic, but if Yi Futian does not want to trade them, then he doesn't have to. "It is shameful for you all to try and force him like this," continued the cultivator of the Shao clan. Now that Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan had gotten involved, he naturally did not mind joining in. Of course, if Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan had not spoken before him, he would not have dared to offend the other great powers. The techniques of the sky-reaching school truly do not let people see through you, said a cultivator from the Yuanyang clan. The 4 top powers of the Central Emperor realm had all shown their attitudes. A surprised look came over Yuan Hong's face. He had not thought that Yi Futian would use this trick. The people who wanted to seize his ritual implements would not get them. Yi Futian was preparing to give them to those who had not tried to steal them. This was very similar to the alliance that had taken place in the God's Relic. Many people's expressions changed. The situation seemed to be changing. Excellent. At that moment, a divine voice seemed to flow around them like the sound of a great bell. A monk of Tianxian Temple in the mountain realm clasped his hands together and said, "In our realm, those of the Xinxing clan are traitors against holiness who falsely use the name of Buddha. But they always do despicable things. Now they want to stir up trouble here. Do not believe them. Lord Yi has forged a perfect divine wheel. He is someone with an important fate. Do not do him any harm." Had Yi Futian purchased Tianxian Temple's loyalty as well? I have often heard the name of Tianshan Academy, the foremost place for cultivation in the 3,000 realms of the divine path, said Chang 11 of the Yue clan. I am willing to go there for a period of time. Now that Emperor Yi has broken through to the Renhuang Plain and forged a perfect divine wheel, I would like the chance to test his capabilities. How can I not accept your invitation? Said Yi Futian with a smile and a nod. Everything was going as he had planned. Everything in the world was based on momentum. Previously, he was beset on all sides, and everyone wanted to be his enemy. This was one kind of momentum. Under this situation, no one would speak for him. But now Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan had gotten involved, along with the Shao clan, and the power behind him had become a kind of momentum as well. He had just said he would give ritual implements to Tianxian Temple and Yuyue Divine Palace, so they were giving a little bit of their strength in return. This accelerated the situation. In reality, although Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan had said they would support him, that didn't mean they would succeed. But they went into it with an attitude of wanting to try. What happened next made both the cultivator of Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan look at Yi Futian. This momentum trick was quite good. In this way, the Nantian Divine Kingdom, the Shao clan, the Yuanyang clan, and more would have their power increased by the ritual implements that Yi Futian would give them. In contrast, those that had wanted to seize them would not get any. Having the other realms on the same level as them get stronger would be equivalent to them getting weaker. When others advanced, those who did not advance took a step backward. This many of the people from the sky-reaching school look upset. Had they been the catalyst that brought their enemies together? Now Yi Futian's side consisted of Tianshan Academy, Emperor Nan, the Yuanyang realm, the Shao clan, Tianxian Temple, the Dou tribe, Taishan Mountain, and some of the forces of the Heavenly Mandate realm. The Divine Palace and the clan of the Seven Slayers would stand with him as well. With this powerful formation, it would be extremely difficult to seize anything from Yi Futian. For a time, no one spoke. Yi Futian saw that everyone was silent, then clasped his hands together and said, "Thank you all for showing consideration for me. However, as long as you are all still willing to trade equivalent items, I will have no objections. Of course, I do not have too many ritual implements myself. After all, I need to give many of them to my friends and elders, after which I'm afraid there won't be many left. Those who wish to trade with me had better do it soon." Everyone stared at Yi Futian. Had he done this on purpose? He was going to share them? The people of the powerful forces felt their hearts twitch. Who was he going to share them with? It went without saying. They would not get any. If none of you have anything else to say, I will be done here. If you wish to find me, you may go to Tianshan Academy, where I will be cultivating for a while, continued Yi Futian. He was not lying. He was not prepared to go anywhere else. He was ready to spend some time cultivating. Both his cultivation and the aftermath of what had happened here today would need time. What had happened here today would cause a lot of problems when it spread throughout the realms. At some point, the people who had been sent to the celestial gate of vast heaven would probably seek him out when they got word. He did not know where Yi Wuchen and the others were cultivating, and the cultivators of the Celestial Gate were scattered throughout the realms. Once his cultivation was stabilized, and the chaos had subsided, the Celestial Gate of vast heaven could be reorganized, and they could return to the heavenly mandate realm. But before that, he had to deal with the Golden Divine Nation. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1658 Seeker. Chapter 1658 Seeker. The crisis here had been resolved. However, the battlefield was still chaotic. The various Renowangs were scattered across different battles. The entire city of the ruins was enveloped in a terrifying storm. The crowd standing over here could clearly sense the intensity of the storm. At this moment, the cultivators of the various forces had different expressions. All of them were having different thoughts. The cultivators of Shun clan had been watching from the side all this while. They had not expected that Yi Futian actually took advantage of the situation and resolved this crisis. They initially believed that even they could seize a few ritual implements from Yi Futian. However, from the looks of it now, it would be impossible. Yi Futian had clearly sought help from Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan. Their Shun clan couldn't step out and object at this moment. The overall situation was set. There was no need for them to offend Tianshan Academy and Emperor Nan. If their Shin clan truly wanted to deal with Yi Futian, there was no place in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path that Yi Futian could run to that they could not also reach. It was just that they did not plan to do so. Right at that moment, beams of spatial divine light shone down from the sky. Endless golden light rained down from above. The next moment, figures descended from the heavens above and stood high up in the sky. Among this group of people, every single one of them was in existence at the Renhuang Plain. Their auras were frightening. The aura of their leader was even more unfathomable. "Greetings, envoys of the Emperor," many people said as they saluted with their fists. The group that had arrived were members of the Central Emperor Realm's Empty Imperial Palace. The Palace Lord of Empty Imperial Palace lifted his head and looked around in the sky. His eyes seemed to penetrate the endless space. He saw the battle between Lord Taishan and the dynastic overlord of the Golden Divine Nation. The Palace Lord merely said, "Gai Tsang, that's enough." The Palace Lord's voice immediately pierced the heavens. The dynastic overlord of the Golden Divine Nation, who was battling fiercely with Lord Taishan in the sky, cast a glance down below. Gai Tsang was the name of the dynastic overlord of the Golden Divine Nation. The dynastic overlord glanced at Lord Taishan. He never imagined that Lord Taishuan's mastery of the Song of the Lost Divine was so powerful. In this battle, Lord Taishan had completely withstood against his attacks. But golden divine light flew down below. Gai Tsang did not continue fighting. Very quickly, he appeared in the city of the ruins below. His gaze turned towards the envoys of Empty Imperial Palace. Empty Imperial Palace was under the direct command of Donghuang the Great. They were known as the envoys of the Emperor. They were the overseers of the world. They rarely intervened in the affairs of the outside world and only appeared during special occasions. No one dared to humiliate Empty Imperial Palace. Even the forces that stood at the peak of the Central Emperor Realm did not dare to offend Empty Imperial Palace. A senior of Gai Tsang served directly under Donghuang the Great. He was in existence at the level of a divine general. His senior knew the Palace Lord of Empty Imperial Palace. Hence, Gai Tsang also knew the Palace Lord, and both sides had dealings before. Donghuang the Great established a law for God's relic to open once every 50 years, the Palace Lord said. It is an opportunity for the various forces of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path to seek fateful encounters. It is a chance for the true proud sons of heaven to advance even further. It is not for you all to pillage and massacre each other. This time, Gai Tsang, you have overstepped your boundaries. The Palace Lord's words caused Gai Tsang's expression to change slightly. Based on what Gai Tsang knew, every time the trip to God's relic ended, conflict would surely erupt. There had never been a time where things ended peacefully. All these years, The empty imperial palace had not even participated before, let alone the palace lord of the empty imperial palace personally coming over. But this time, it is the first time since the opening of God's relic that the Emperor's relic has been cracked. The palace lord of empty imperial palace continued. Since they have had such a fateful encounter, in the future, they will all have the chances to be figures at the peak of their realms. Gaitsong, heed my advice and give up on your agenda. He wanted the Golden Divine Nation's dynastic overlord to stop here. The cultivators around the area all revealed strange expressions. As expected, it was because the secret of the god's relic had been cracked. Yi Futian was one of the 10 people who had received the teachings of Dong Huang the Great. After Dong Huang the Great dominated the world, he had always hoped that all forces would prosper. Based on the information that they had heard, the rise of Tianshan Academy, which became the greatest academy in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, was the doing of Dong Huang the Great. He had been controlling things from behind the scenes. Yi Futian had a great fateful encounter in God's relic and had also forged a flawless divine wheel. Hence, even the cultivators of empty imperial palace had appeared to protect him and to force the golden divine nation to cease their actions. Even Yi Futian himself had not imagined that the empty imperial palace would appear. After all, he knew nothing about the empty imperial palace. Then has my son died in vain? Gaitsong questioned as he looked at the palace lord. The golden divine light on his body shone. His own ability was extraordinary. His brother was a divine general under Dong Huang the Great. Standing against the palace lord of empty imperial palace, he still did not lose the majesty of the dynastic overlord of the golden divine nation. Gaitsong, the palace lord frowned as he said, "If you want to act, you can. This is not my responsibility. However, I will be reporting what transpired. When the time comes, if Dong Huang the Great questions this incident, you will bear the consequences yourself." Gaitsong's pupils shot out cold golden light that had a sharp aura. He swept a glance over at Yi Futian, his murderous intent ablaze. A junior figure had killed 2 of his heirs. They were his 2 most important heirs. However, the palace lord of empty imperial palace actually came to protect Yi Futian. This made the dynastic overlord of the golden divine nation realize that those who obtained divine items in God's relic would draw the attention of even Dong Huang the Great's underlings. If the dynastic overlord killed Yi Futian and Dong Huang the Great questioned him, it would most likely be difficult for him to answer as the sovereign of the golden divine nation. This would most likely also get his brother involved as well. When he thought about this, Gaitsong swept a cold stare over at Yi Futian. He then turned around and left. A beam of blinding golden divine light pierced the space. Yi Futian had to close his eyes as it was extremely blinding. When he opened his eyes, Gaitsong's silhouette had already disappeared. He had left angrily. Although he had left, Gaitsong's murderous intent towards Yi Futian was still extremely strong. This matter would most likely not be easily resolved. "Many thanks, Senior," Yi Futian said as he bowed slightly at the palace lord of empty imperial palace. The palace lord of empty imperial palace glanced at Yi Futian and nodded his head slightly. He then turned his gaze towards the crowd and said, "You can all disperse now. 50 years later, the god's relic will open once again." God's relic would open again? Many people revealed strange expressions when they heard his words, their minds running wild. Based on what those who had come out from God's relic had said, the relic of Dong Huang the Great had already been cracked. What was this about it opening again? What exactly was God's relic? Let's go. Right now, at the other end of the battlefield, the dynastic overlord of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty also issued an order to retreat. With Lord Taishin being present and the dynastic overlord of Golden Divine Nation giving up on the battle, the Heavenly Mandate dynasty did not stand a chance to win. They could only leave. Sky River Great Elder and the cultivators of Do tribe did not pursue after the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, allowing them to leave. With Yi Futian's current influence in the Heavenly Mandate realm, it would most likely be very difficult for the Heavenly Mandate dynasty to want to harm Yi Futian in the future. The dynastic overlord of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty realized this problem as well. Yi Futian first came into prominence when they were fighting against each other at the Violet Heavenly Palace. At that time, nobody had predicted that he would grow up so fast. Yi Futian asserted his influence among his peers and had now become the leader of the younger generations of the Heavenly Mandate realm. He had built connections with various forces in the Heavenly Mandate realm. The dynastic overlord carefully observed everything that happened today. Now, Yi Futian had a strong influence over the demon realm of the Heavenly Mandate realm. With the aid of ritual implements owned by Yi Futian, he could lead the demon realm forces to achieve new heights. Of course, the dynastic overlord despised the betrayal of the Purple Gold Rat clan the most. He would surely get even with this group of vermin after they left this place. This incident had come to an end. Yi Futian secretly breathed a sigh of relief as well. Nobody knew that he had received the teachings of the emperor. Before this, he claimed that Donghuang the Great awakened, and various deities bore witness to it, but his words were merely a feint to confuse everyone. Yi Futian had guessed that a fight would ensue due to the palace full of treasures and the identity of people he had offended in the god's relic. However, the incident seemed to be over for now. Many thanks to all the seniors for your assistance. If I have the chance, I will certainly pay you all a visit to show my gratitude, Yi Futian said as he saluted the cultivators of the various forces with his fists. This time around, aside from the various forces of the Heavenly Mandate realm, Divine Palace, Do Tribe, Yuanyang Clan, Clan of the Seven Slayers as well as some other forces had also stood beside him. He would remember this debt of gratitude. What do you plan to do next? Lord Taixin asked. I will first head over to Tianshan Academy to train for a while. Once my plane is stable, I will return to the Heavenly Mandate realm, Yi Futian replied. After that, he had a few matters that he still needed to attend to. The first was to train and let this turmoil gradually subside and fade into oblivion. The second was to wait. He had to wait for the members of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven to appear and regroup to re-establish the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Of course, after these two matters, he still had a few more that he truly wanted to attend to. The Heavenly Mandate Dynasty, Jeyu, and Master. Xiang Mang, since you are in the Central Emperor realm now, you should stay and follow Yi Futian to Tianshan Academy. You can broaden your horizons, a senior of Divine Elephants said to Xiang Mang. The senior intended to leave his junior with Yi Futian. All right, Xiang Mang nodded in agreement. Oh, I need to apologize for something, Yi Futian spoke up. I have accidentally merged 10,000 bones of the Divine Elephant Emperor into my divine wheel. However, I will compensate your force with another ritual implement. It's fine. The cultivators of divine elephants were not too concerned about it. Right now, the importance of 10,000 bones of the Divine Elephant Emperor had diminished. Longchen, you should also go train in Tianshan Academy for a while. Try to prove your way as soon as possible, a cultivator of the dragon gods ordered. June, Gao Huang, one by one, cultivators called out the names of their juniors, planning to leave them behind to train in the Central Emperor realm. Yi Futian had also thought of this situation before. Hence, he had told the cultivators of Tianshan Academy that he would bring along a few friends to train in Tianshan Academy. It was a rare opportunity. First, he could train to improve his ability. Secondly, he could reinforce his influence in the Heavenly Mandate realm. He could even gain control over the entire Heavenly Mandate realm. If a cultivator did not have a force of his own, he would be at the mercy of others everywhere he went. Kong Xian, you should catch up on your cultivation as well. From now on, you will follow Futian for training, Demon Peacock Emperor said. Yi Futian, I will leave Kong Xian to you. Please take care of her. A glint of embarrassment flashed past Yi Futian's eyes. Demon Peacock Emperor's words sounded a little like, however, he was indebted to the Demon Peacock Emperor because of the previous battle at Dali Dynasty and the incident regarding Little Condor. Therefore, Yi Futian naturally could not reject his request. At the same time, Emperor Xia, who was standing beside Demon Peacock Emperor, glanced at the latter. Was Demon Peacock Emperor snatching his line? Qingyuan, you should pay more attention to your matter with Futian. From now on, when I am not by your side, Futian will take good care of you, Emperor Xia announced after glaring at Demon Peacock Emperor. Speechless, Xia Qingyuan stared at her father. What kind of matter did she have with Yi Futian? Yi Futian, who was standing at a side, kept quiet and stayed out of this conversation. Your Highness, I also want to pay a visit to Tianshan Academy, Qin, he said to Brahma's pure sky empress in another area. The empress looked at her and then glanced towards Yi Futian. Right at that moment, Yi Futian was also similarly looking at her. Brahma's pure sky empress was still in unparalleled beauty. She was like a goddess. You will not, she rejected. Qin He's expression froze. She did not understand why. Empress, since Goddess Qin wants to go, why stop her? Yi Futian asked. Could it be that this empress had a vendetta against him? He had a growing suspicion that this empress was hiding something regarding Jiyu from him. Qin He looked towards the empress. Let's return now, the empress ordered with a harsh tone. She had no intention of letting Qin He stay. When we were in God's relic, I joined forces with Goddess Qin, so I still owe her 2 ritual implements. When I return to the heavenly mandate realm, I will go personally to visit Brahma's pure sky, Yi Futian said. The empress left without responding to him. Yi Futian watched the silhouette leave. He was even more certain about some things. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1659 Settling Down. Chapter 1659 Settling Down. After everything was settled, Yi Futian looked at Lord Taishan and said, Lord Taishan, I will go directly to Tianshan Academy for training now. Yi Futian did not say any words of appreciation. The things that Lord Taishan had done for him could not be summarized with just a few words of gratitude. Back when Lord Taishan broke through the plane, he once mentioned that his heavenly path was flawed, and he could not become the way. Yi Futian hoped that one day, he would be capable of assisting Lord Taishan in overcoming this bottleneck. Since there are seniors of Tianshan Academy around to lead you there, I will not send you off, Lord Taishan replied while smiling. Okay. Yi Futian nodded slightly. He took out a storage ring and handed it over to Lord Taishan, saying, I have prepared this for Taishan Mountain. String Emperor and House Master will benefit from it too. This little fellow sure is sincere. Empress Yen, who was beside him, smiled slightly and said, I did not send you up Taishan Mountain in vain. This little fellow was developing very rapidly. He could already kill Gai Jiutian alone. Even she was no longer a match for Yi Futian. This combat power was indeed somewhat frightening. Yi Futian had just reached the Renhuang Plain and could already kill Gai Jiutian. This also seemed to not be his full strength. She was a little curious as to the limits of Yi Futian's current combat ability. All right, I will keep this. Lord Taishan nodded. It is said that Yi Futian had obtained a treasure trove worth of ritual implements, so Lord Taishan did not need to be courteous when receiving Yi Futian's gift. The 4 disciples of Lord Taishan could indeed benefit from the ritual implements. Since Yi Futian gave the storage ring to Lord Taishan sincerely, the latter would not reject the gift. Grandmaster, do you need any ritual implements? Yi Futian transmitted his thoughts to Sky River Great Elder, who was beside him. Yi Futian did not know what type of ritual implement was suitable for the Grandmaster, hence he had transmitted his thoughts to ask him. I do not need any. Sky River Great Elder transmitted back to Yi Futian. He said, train hard in Tianshan Academy. Yi Futian's approach was very clever. Once he entered Tianshan Academy, he would be very safe for the time being. It was far safer than being in the Tianhe realm. Even if Shen clan discovered anything, they could not attack Yi Futian while he was at Tianshan Academy. Grandmaster, Yi Futian still wanted to say something. Train longer. Strengthen your plane. Sky River Great Elder interrupted Yi Futian. Then he looked at Lord Taishan, let's go. All right. Lord Taishan nodded. He turned to the cultivators of Taishan Mountain and said, let's head back. String Emperor, Empress Yen as well as the disciples of Taishan Mountain all glanced at Yi Futian. Empress Yen smiled and said, I will be waiting for your return to Taishan Mountain. As she said this, their group waved goodbye and left, free and easy. This was the Central Emperor realm. They were returning to the higher heavens realm. In the City of the Ruins, People were constantly flying up into the sky and leaving. However, the members of the top forces of the other realms left behind their monstrous juniors as well as some Renhuang cultivators as bodyguards. They were prepared to let their juniors head over to Tianshan Academy to train for a while. Emperor Nan and Empress Luo also brought Nan Luoshan up onto their carriage in the sky. "Senior, what about the ritual implement?" Yi Futian shouted at Emperor Nan through a secret sound transmission. "Luoshan will head to Tianshan Academy soon. You can pass it to her then," Emperor Nan responded. His carriage traversed the space and left, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Yi Futian looked at the remaining people. He secretly transmitted a message to each and every one of them. Since everyone was heading to Tianshan Academy, it would be easier for him to hand over the ritual implements to them when they were at Tianshan Academy. He felt no regrets or reluctance about giving away the ritual implements to others. Right now, the things he had the most were ritual implements. It did not bother him to give out a few. It would be beneficial for Yi Futian should these forces become stronger. In contrast, those forces which intended to snatch his ritual implements earlier would feel very uneasy when they knew about his generosity. "Let's also head out," a cultivator from Tianshan Academy said. "We will be in your care, senior," Yi Futian said as he bowed slightly. Then, the group stepped out and headed off into the void. The various forces of the Heavenly Mandate realm saw the cultivators of Tianshan Academy leave. Who knew what the future had in store for them? "Let us head back." The cultivators of the various forces returned to their own realms. Not long after, the cultivators in the city of the ruins all left. It once again returned to being a land of decrepit ruins. It was as though everything that had happened before had all been just a dream. Tianshan Academy was situated in the most prosperous region in the east of the Central Emperor Realm, Dongxing State. In Dongxing State, there were countless magnificent cities and millions upon millions of citizens. There were innumerable cultivators and many extremely prosperous ancient clans as well as dominant forces. They made up one of the most prosperous regions of the Central Emperor Realm. It could even be said that this place was not just the most prosperous region in the Central Emperor Realm. Even among the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, this region could be considered one of the most powerful regions. The elite figures that cultivated until they reached the peak of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path would eventually end up gathering in this place. The most famous academy in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, Tianshan Academy, was located in the central region of Dongxing State. Tianshan Academy was surrounded by majestic cities. Tianshan Academy itself was so enormous that it could be considered a city on its own. It stretched for miles without any end in sight. Right now, Yi Futian's group was traversing over a city. His gaze glanced downwards. It was bustling with activity down below. This is where the outer sect disciples of Tianshan Academy train. Of course, there are also cultivators from various other forces. This place is not off-limits to outsiders. Anyone may enter here, Jian Qingzhu explained beside Yi Futian. This group of people had come here together and got to know each other along the way. Jian Qingzhu was also very curious about this cultivator, who had also opened the door of the relic and forged a flawless divine will like he had. He also bore no animosity towards Yi Futian. Jian Qingzhu himself was a person who had extreme self-confidence. He was personally very happy to see Yi Futian and the other monstrous figures coming to Tianshan Academy together to train. Wasn't it more interesting for a lot of top figures to cultivate together? Does Tianshan Academy have a lot of outer sect disciples? Yi Futian asked. Many, Jian Qingzhu nodded. He continued saying, people from various corners of the world come to seek the way at Tianshan Academy. With the exception of those outstanding figures, most people start cultivating as outer sect disciples. They will train step by step, and only the really talented ones who pass the final selection can enter Tianshan Academy. Moreover, everyone who comes to seek the way starts at a different plane. Some of them are very young and are at a low plane, but those who have exceptional talent are recruited as outer sect disciples. When they grow up, they will finally become members of Tianshan Academy. Of course, teachers who teach the way are actually cultivators of Tianshan Academy too. For example, since I am a Renhuang now, I can teach here as well. Understood. Yi Futian nodded in realization. According to what Jian Qingzhu said, outer sect disciples were actually not counted as cultivators of Tianshan Academy. Outer sect disciples existed because Tianshan Academy spread the teachings of Wei indiscriminately to all who wanted to learn, so they needed a title to group everyone. Tianshan Academy would later choose their official disciples from these outer sect disciples. Many popular training spots practiced this model. Even Divine Palace used this method, but there were some differences in the details. We have arrived, Jian Qingzhu said as he looked in front of them. Yi Futian gazed in front of them. He saw that there was actually a sky stairwell that measured 10,000 zhang extending upwards to the sky from the ground. It seemed to reach the clouds in the sky above. He could faintly make out a gate in the sky. Down below, many people were looking up into the sky. Brother Jian has returned from the god's relic. I wonder what he encountered. I guess he has surely proven his way and broken through to the Renhuang plain, someone said. Many people put on envious gazes. They looked at Jian Qingzhu and the others as they traversed in midair and landed on the sky stairwell directly. They stood before Heaven's Gate. Tianshan Academy. Yi Futian stood at the stairs, which were 10,000 zhang tall. The gate contained a very strong space will of the way. There were veins of the great path on the gate, as though it was a grand matrix. When the cultivators of Tianshan Academy arrived, the veins on the gate changed continuously. Then, the veins turned transparent, and the cultivators of Tianshan Academy entered the gate directly. Yi Futian followed behind them, and he could immediately sense the world on the other side of the gate. Inside and outside of the gate were completely different spaces. The inside of the gate had extremely rich worldly spiritual qi. A mere breath was enough for one to sense the endless spiritual qi as well as the aura of the great path. Among the mist, towering mountains stood tall, as though this place was a fairyland. The group continued forward. Yi Futian discovered that Tianshan Academy was like a dimension of its own. There were many palaces here. They were all training grounds for members of Tianshan Academy. There were also many suitable spots for training. I will give the order for someone to bring you all to choose a spot to train. You all can focus on training there, the elder from Tianshan Academy said to Yi Futian and the others. Thank you, but I will have to decline your invitation, Yi Futian said. I am not a disciple of Tianshan Academy. It would naturally be inappropriate for me to occupy a training ground in Tianshan Academy. I will train in the outside world. I only need Senior to grant me permission to freely enter Tianshan Academy, as well as allow me to access the manuscripts in the academy. He did not want to train here because he felt that it was troublesome. The people here were the core figures of the academy. There were strong cultivators everywhere. It would most likely be inconvenient for him to do anything. He had also yet to join Tianshan Academy, so it was somewhat inappropriate for him to train inside here. I will also do the same. Cultivators from other forces also said this. All right. Regardless of what your choice is, you can all freely enter Tianshan Academy, the elder from Tianshan Academy replied. He accompanied them along the way as they continued forward. In the ancient palaces below, the wills of many cultivators swept over them. Some smiled and spoke up, their voices directly piercing through the space. Congratulations, younger brother Jian. Younger brother Jian has proven his way, somebody else said after that. There were even some people who flew over here. Not long after, their group descended onto an area with many ancient palaces. Many people walked over to them. The people here all had extraordinary temperament. The crowd also noticed Yi Futian and the others. They were also curious. Why had Jian Qingzhu brought back so many strangers from the god's relic this time? Could it be that they also wanted to join Tianshan Academy to train? Yi Futian, come with me, the elder from Tianshan Academy said to Yi Futian. Yi Futian nodded his head and followed the elder towards a palace hall. The members of the other forces from the outside world immediately understood when they saw this. Yi Futian most likely had made some agreement with the cultivators of Tianshan Academy. Jian Qingzhu and the other cultivators of Tianshan Academy began to chat. Very quickly, the cultivators of Tianshan Academy roughly knew what had transpired in the god's relic. Their gazes turned towards the unfamiliar faces, full of interest. they were actually top figures from other realms? It looked like Tianshan Academy was going to be very lively from now on. Will Nen Luoshan come here? Someone asked. A cultivator who returned from God's relic replied. On top of Nen Luoshan, most likely top figures from other realms will soon come to train at Tianshan Academy as well. This is interesting. The crowd was getting more hyped up. After a while, Yi Futian came out from the palace. The elder appeared beside him, saying, "From now on, all of you can come in and out of Tianshan Academy freely. You are permitted to go to any places that nobody is using for training. If you want to train outside, I will have someone prepare accommodation for all of you." "Senior, thank you so much," everyone said while bowing to the elder. "All right. You are dismissed," the elder concluded with a smile. All of them were top figures from various realms. Naturally, they did not need to be micromanaged. They knew what to do. "Please excuse us." One by one, the silhouettes flew onto the sky and left the place. All of them headed towards different directions. "Are we really training outside?" Dou Zhao asked Yi Futian. "The environment here is obviously more suitable for training. Are you too shy to train here?" "No, I have my own considerations. You can train inside here if you want," Yi Futian replied. "I plan to explore inside here," Long Chen announced his plan to Yi Futian and the rest. "Okay, everyone should focus on their own training." Yi Futian smiled, and their group once again spread out, moving towards different directions. Even though most of them were cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate realm, there was no need for them to stick together all the time. Everyone had their own path to pursue. "I will stay with you." Dou Zhao still followed after Yi Futian. He was determined to stick around Yi Futian no matter what. "All right. It doesn't make any difference anyway." Yi Futian accepted Dou Zhao's decision with a smile. They could move around Tianshan Academy freely anyway. Yi Futian, along with Dou Zhao, Yu Xing, Yaya, Xiaqing Yuan, Kong Xian, Little Condor, and the Sword Master of Lihan, left Tianshan Academy and settled down in a palace outside. The Sword Master of Lihan had passed down the teachings of Lihan Heaven to other people. Hence, he could focus on comprehending the way now. It was the reason why he had followed Yi Futian to Tianshan Academy. After everything had been settled, Yi Futian planned to train quietly for a period of time. He had proven his way and became a Renhuang in a rush. There were still some things that he had not verified. He intended to continue forging his second and third divine wheel. There were 2 life spirits with him that seemed to be undergoing some changes. Inside and outside of Tianshan Academy, the arrival of Yi Futian and the members of various realms drew a lot of discussion. It seemed that for the foreseeable future, Tianshan Academy would be quite lively. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1660 Terrifying Visions. Chapter 1660 Terrifying Visions. After half a month, the cultivators from the various realms slowly grew accustomed to Tianshan Academy. Aside from training by themselves, they would occasionally head over to Tianshan Academy to have discussions about their way with other Renhuangs. Yi Futian was very leisurely. Every day, aside from training, most of his time was spent going in and out of Tianshan Academy. On Daozong Peak in Tianshan Academy, clouds and mist lingered. There were waterfalls plummeting down from the high peaks, like the Milky Way against the backdrop of the heavens. Above the waterfalls, there was a 33-floor pavilion. Occasionally, there would be people walking about outside of the pavilion, coming in and out of the place. Sometimes, they could even see people coming from different directions through the sky and landing outside of the pavilion. It was as though this was truly the land of fairies. Daozong Peak was the archive of Tianshan Academy. There were countless cultivation manuscripts here, from the simplest to the most advanced, from the lowest plane to the highest plane. Tianshan Academy's Daozong Peak was considered a holy archive of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. It contained the most manuscripts in the world. Of the 33 floors, the manuscripts in the bottom 22 were allowed to be brought out to the outside world for training. They could even be circulated outside. That meant to say that after the disciples of Tianshan Academy finished cultivating them, they could teach these manuscripts to the outside world. Hence, the law powers that many people in Dongsheng State cultivated originated from Daozong Peak. One could imagine how significant the existence of Daozong Peak was. Some of the top figures of Tianshan Academy also created new law powers that would be stored within Daozong Peak. I have heard that Elder Brother Jian placed the manuscripts that he obtained from the god's relic in Daozong Pavilion. Those manuscripts were part of Dong Huang the Great's personal collection, someone said. At this moment, a group of youths outside the pavilion was walking into the building. The temperament of this group of people was extraordinary. They were all disciples of Tianshan Academy. The manuscripts were from all sorts of genres and were stored on different levels. Some manuscripts were even stored on the 33rd floor, another person said as he smiled. No wonder Elder Brother Jian managed to forge a flawless divine wheel and prove his way. Even his generosity is awe-inspiring. The group was calm and cool as they talked about Jian Qingzhu. This time, when the god's relic opened, I heard there were many proud sons of heaven who entered it. Now, the proud sons of heaven from various realms are also training in Tianshan Academy. However, in my opinion, even if they train here, Elder Brother Jian is a legendary figure among our generation. The only ones who might be able to contend with Elder Brother Jian are Shen Hao from Shun clan as well as that princess from the Nantian Divine Kingdom. These three were the members of the top forces of the Central Emperor realm. The members from the various realms also cannot be underestimated. Rumor has it that 10 of them forged flawless divine wheels. After emerging from God's relic, the disciple of Sky River Great Elder, Futian, also displayed extremely powerful ability. Another person to the side said, "We are not underestimating them. Those who managed to forge flawless divine wheels were originally legendary figures among a generation. We have yet to even prove our ways. How are we qualified to look down on them? We are merely having a discussion and are comparing them to Elder Brother Jian. I still believe that Elder Brother Jian is the best in the world," yet another person said with a smile. They nodded their heads and walked into Daozong Pavilion. The 30th floor of Daozong Pavilion was a place that only disciples of Tianshan Academy could step foot on. However, right now, Futian was also in this place. Futian had spent 10 ritual implements to enter Tianshan Academy to train. He had negotiated so that he and his friends could study the manuscripts in Tianshan Academy like ordinary disciples of Tianshan Academy. Hence, it was not just him, the swordmaster of Lihen, Yaya, and the others were also in Daozong Pavilion. Even though the swordmaster of Lihen had forged a flawless divine wheel, he still lacked law powers to match it. This place was very suitable for the swordmaster of Lihen to find some. After entering, Futian also discovered that Daozong Pavilion had rich resources for training. The price of 10 ritual implements was truly not considered a loss. After all, it depended on what one needed. For Futian, he had too many ritual implements. Using them to exchange for useful things was naturally not considered a loss. Right now, Futian opened a black manuscript in his hands. On it the characters, "Eye of the Reaper," were carved. Eye of the Reaper. Futian felt his heart tremble. It was such an overbearing name. He opened the manuscript. The black book seemed to form a connection with him as though an eye was staring back at him. Futian's divine spirit entered into the book. The next moment, he felt the entire world change, and he was thrust into endless darkness. A terrifying will of death enveloped his own will and invaded his mind. Inadvertently, an aura of death appeared on his body. It was as though he was seeing the silhouette of the Reaper. After a short while, Futian's divine spirit emerged from the manuscript. The black book in his hands was still normal and did not appear to be anything special. However, there was new information within his mind. The most advanced cultivation methods required the practitioner to engrave the method with their own divine spirit in order to pass it on. These law powers could not be inherited through writing. It was very overbearing. Futian thought to himself. He naturally could cultivate this Eye of the Reaper. However, it was not outstanding enough. In reality, with his current cultivation method, even those very powerful law powers were of little importance to him. He sought law powers, but not with the intention of only mastering the attacks. Infinite excision. Yi Futian continued to flip through the manuscripts beside him and tried to comprehend the content. If anyone paid attention to him, they would notice that Yi Futian was focusing on manuscripts related to spirit elemental and eye sorcery. Yi Futian glanced through many other manuscripts before he left the place. After he left Tianshan Academy, he returned to a palace outside of the academy. He arrived at a training hall. Yi Futian sat cross-legged in the training hall. In his life palace, an alarming storm was raging. There was a pair of eyes in the storm. It was a life spirit. The eyes of the storm. This was originally not a life spirit that Yi Futian owned. It was given to him by Emperor Yi Qing. At the moment, the eyes of the storm were extremely terrifying. The storm that it initiated engulfed the will in its surroundings frenziedly, as though it was a black hole. Every strand of it contained the domineering will of the Great Path. Moreover, it grew larger and larger, seemingly wanting to swallow the entire space. This kind of situation had never occurred before. Apart from using this life spirit to tame beasts, Yi Futian seldom used it. It could strengthen his willpower too. However, it was not a method that he trained in after all. Since it had been given to him directly, it did not match perfectly with him. Another thing that was undergoing transformation was Yi Futian's natal spirit, the World Tree. The World Tree had not been calm recently. Terrifying will seeped out of it continuously. Yi Futian was unsure of whether this abnormality was induced by the teachings that he had inherited from the Heavenly Palace, or by his breakthrough to the Renhuang Plain. Perhaps both reasons played a role in causing the abnormality. Rumble. The life spirit of Eyes of the Storm blossomed. Suddenly, two beams of unparalleled, intense, divine light shot out from his pupils. The light contained very domineering willpower, and their gravity was as strong as that of a black hole. In an instant, will from all around billowed and gushed towards Yi Futian's body. It formed a terrifying storm of the Great Path with Yi Futian at the center of the storm. His eyes were seemingly everywhere. Even though he was sitting here, he could see everything in the world clearly. He saw countless people cultivating outside of Tianshan Academy. In his body, there was another powerful will rushing towards his pupils. Intense rumbling sounds could be heard. Yi Futian's eyes were undergoing the baptism of the Great Path. Before he became a Renhuang, he had practiced the body of the Great Path before. Now, he was using the will to refine his pair of eyes. He was refining his pupils. For the past few days, he had been searching for related manuscripts at Daozong Peak. Some of the manuscripts were training diaries written by cultivators, while some were techniques for meditation. All his preparation was for this moment. The area outside of Yi Futian's palace was a training ground for outer sect disciples of Tianshan Academy. People from other realms were cultivating here too. Right now, many people looked in the direction of the palace. A terrifying tornado hung down from the sky. It was a storm of the Great Path. This storm of the Great Path covered almost the entire sky above the palace. It spun downwards furiously. Horrifying rumbles could be heard too. It was impossible for others to not notice these terrifying visions. Someone seemed to be breaking through to the next plane. Many cultivators flew up to the sky and looked in the direction where the visions occurred. I heard that the party of Yi Futian, the disciple of Sky River Great Elder, is training over there. Is one of his friends advancing to the next plane? It is causing quite a commotion, someone muttered. Many cultivators here had witnessed others becoming Renhuangs before. Divine visions would take place while the Great Path surged into the body of the cultivator, forging the divine wheel of the Great Path. After one succeeded in becoming a Renhuang, they would shine as bright as the moon and the stars. They would enjoy longevity with the heavens and earth. It seems like Yi Futian himself is causing these visions, someone commented. Yi Futian? Hasn't he already broken through to the Renhuang Plain and proven his way? Another person asked quizzically. Perhaps he is forging a second divine wheel. The person who commented just now spoke again. A lot of people narrowed their eyes when they heard this. Rumor has it that the divine wheel that Yi Futian had forged was a perfect one. How would his second divine will be? Previously, he had advanced to the next plane in God's relic and forged a perfect divine wheel with the help of a fateful encounter. If he was forging a second divine wheel now, would it still be a perfect one? The onlookers knew that many monstrous figures would not be satisfied with forging just a single divine wheel. However, it was definitely rare to encounter one with two perfect divine wheels. They had never heard of any success stories before. The visions lasted for a long time, and it was still ongoing. This caused the crowd to reveal strange expressions. The terrifying visions in the sky intensified. How long was it going to take for Yi Futian to forge a divine wheel? Could it be that he was really forging a second perfect divine wheel of the Great Path? More and more cultivators gathered around this place. Even those who were far away rushed over. They could see these abnormal visions from miles away. How long has it been? Someone asked. It has been 2 hours. The visions show no signs of disappearing. What the crowd did not know was that Yi Futian was not only forging a divine wheel, he was also attempting to merge his law power into his divine wheel. This was the life spirit given to him by Emperor Yi Qing, but now he intended to refine it into his divine wheel. Since he was going to do so, then he should refine it into a unique ability of his own from now on. Many images flashed past in Yi Futian's mind. The law powers he saw at Daozong Peak of Tianshan Academy, the techniques he used when he was training in the past, the scene at the God's Relic where he refined the spatial divine orb, one by one, these images played out in his mind. His body entered into a marvelous state. He had forgotten himself. He had no intention of hiding the terrifying visions that he caused. This was also the reason why he chose not to train inside of Tianshan Academy. He was worried that he would stir up a commotion, and the top figures in Tianshan Academy would detect what he was up to. Even though Yi Futian training outside might still attract the attention of some people from Tianshan Academy, it was relatively safer. His training lasted for a whole day. More and more cultivators of Tianshan Academy walked out from the gate and stood at the sky stairwell. All of them stared at the direction where Yi Futian was training. Those who were in Tianshan Academy stared towards where Yi Futian was as well. Slowly, they got a little numb from waiting. What kind of divine wheel of the Great Path was Yi Futian forging? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1661 Presumptuous Thoughts. Chapter 1661 Presumptuous Thoughts. 3 days later, the divine visions subsided. The palace regained its silence. The sky stretched for miles without any clouds. The sky was clear, as though nothing had happened before. However, the areas around the palace were packed with people. Many cultivators stood at the top of buildings as they stared wide-eyed in the direction where Yi Futian's palace was. It was as though the palace was being surrounded. Many cultivators were observing it. In the distance, a group of cultivators of Tianshan Academy was standing at the sky stairwell. All of them looked in the direction of the palace. There were even Renhuangs among them. If someone is proving their way and advancing to the Renhuang plane, 3 days is considered a short amount of time. However, this is my first time encountering someone who caused divine visions for 3 days just to forge a divine wheel, someone mumbled. Even though there were not many cultivators at the Renhuang plane in all the realms, Tianshan Academy was no ordinary place. The cultivators here witnessed quite a few breakthroughs every year. Most of the disciples around looked at an elder of Tianshan Academy. The elder pondered for a while, then he said, "I received news that when Yi Futian was at Daozong Peak, he read a lot of manuscripts about methods. It seems like he is applying what he has learned in forging the divine wheel of the Great Path. I guess he does not want to forge a simple divine wheel. Instead, he is merging some cultivation methods into it. It will cause his divine wheel itself to contain very formidable destructive power. This process of merging has lasted for 3 days. He has combined the entire merging process with the forging of the divine wheel of the Great Path. Therefore, it has caused continual divine visions to occur," the elder explained. Everyone around nodded in realization. This explanation was logical, but it was still rare for this situation to occur. This fellow indeed had a bizarre training method. He was actually comprehending the way while forging the divine wheel, inducing continual divine visions. I wonder what level of divine will has been forged this time, someone said in a low voice. Is it a flawless divine wheel? Regardless of what level of divine wheel it is, the opening of God's relic this time has also reminded everyone that many legendary figures will be born from this generation. You all need to train even harder, an elder concluded. Then he turned and walked towards Tianshan Academy. Understood. The disciples bowed their heads slightly. They felt pressured but at the same time, motivated. In the palace, Yi Futian stopped training. Right now, he was surrounded by an extremely powerful will. His eyes seemed to turn golden in color and contained divine light. The pair of golden eyes even seemed to have swirls in them that kept spiraling inward like golden black holes. The golden eyes slowly closed. When Yi Futian once again opened his eyes, his deep, jet black eyes returned to normal, as though nothing had occurred. I succeeded, Yi Futian exclaimed internally. Yi Futian, a voice called out. Yi Futian walked out, and he saw a group of people traversing in the sky. They landed at his palace. The leader of the group was none other than the daughter of the leader of Shao clan, Xiaomuyu. Goddess Shao, Yi Futian called out to her with a smile. Where are the ritual implements that you promised to give me? Xiaomuyu asked without any hesitation. She came over to Tianshan Academy after returning to Shao clan. She never imagined that she would encounter this fellow cause divine visions. What kind of ritual implements does Goddess Shao need? Yi Futian inquired. Show me what you have, and I will pick myself. Cautious, Xiaomuyu stared at Yi Futian. This fellow was so cunning. If she let him select the ritual implements for her, wouldn't he just randomly pick a few to deceive her? Goddess Shao, do you not trust me? Yi Futian asked. I do not, Xiaomuyu replied decisively. She would not be tricked by this pretty face. All right, Yi Futian said as he smiled bitterly. Goddess Shao, please follow me. As he said this, he led the way. Xiaomuyu followed him alone. The two of them reached a training ground inside the palace. Yi Futian's will shifted, and a golden spatial sacred hall immediately flickered into existence, enveloping the two of them inside of it. Goddess, please pick, Yi Futian invited. Are these all the ritual implements that you have? Xiaomuyu was somewhat doubtful. Didn't he get a whole palace full of ritual implements? There were only about 20 items left here. Goddess Shao, these ritual implements are not just for you. Prior to this, I have already given out many. I am still a Renhuang, and my character is upright. Would I deceive you? Yi Futian said magnanimously. A righteous person like Yi Futian had only hidden 100 ritual implements from her. Xiaomuyu regretted it. She should have picked her items earlier. Yi Futian had asked for the help of many forces, especially Tianshan Academy. He most likely had distributed a large portion of his ritual implements to Tianshan Academy. Clearly, other forces had seized many items too. As for how many ritual implements Yi Futian had given out, it was impossible for anyone to cross-check. He would just keep her guessing. Princess Nanluotian also needs to select her ritual implement after she arrives. By choosing before her, Goddess Shao still has some options. If you chose after Nanluotian made her pick, you probably wouldn't have much of a choice, Yi Futian said consolingly as he tried to make Xiaomuyu feel better about it. When he put it that way, she seemed to be at a greater advantage compared to Nanluotian. Xiaomuyu's gaze sized up Yi Futian. Why was it that this face seemed to be so deceptive? Yi Futian stared at Xiaomuyu with an innocent gaze. I trust that young Master Yi will not be so shameless as to deceive a weak maiden. If you are deceiving me, wouldn't it make you worse than an animal? Xiaomuyu said. Yi Futian's heart twitched. Such a mean woman. He actually had no words that he could use to retort. You are right, Yi Futian agreed with a smile. Then I will pick mine, Xiaomuyu said nothing more. Even though she was still doubtful, she couldn't possibly force Yi Futian to cough up what he was hiding. She looked at the ritual implements with a serious expression. Now was the crucial period for her to prove her way. Many people had forged perfect divine wheels when they were in God's relic. This had affected her greatly. Naturally, she hoped that she could forge a powerful divine wheel when she was proving her way. I will take these 3. Xiao Muyu pointed at 3 ritual implements. All right. Yi Futian nodded and handed the 3 ritual implements over to Xiao Muyu. Many thanks to young Master Yi. After Xiao Muyu got her ritual implements, she bid him farewell, saying, I will take my leave now. Goddess Xiao, may you have a safe trip. Yi Futian did not keep her around. Xiao Muyu took a few steps forward. Then, she turned around and asked Yi Futian, speaking of which, what level is the divine wheel that young Master Yi has just forged? It is just an ordinary divine wheel, unworthy to be mentioned, Yi Futian answered humbly. It is not a flawless one? Xiao Muyu put on a puzzled look. She inquired in detail, how ordinary is it? It is only slightly stronger than my previous divine wheel. There is only a slight difference in the strength of the 2 divine wheels, so there is nothing special about it, Yi Futian replied with a smile. Xiao Muyu's face twitched. Goodbye. Xiao Muyu turned around and left. As expected, his divine wheel was very ordinary. Xiao Muyu was even more certain that this B***starred was hiding many ritual implements from her. Yi Futian was a shameless lowlife. Finally, I can relax, Yi Futian mumbled in relief as he watched Xiao Muyu leave. She actually mumbled that he was a lowlife? After Xiao Muyu left, Yi Futian immediately sat within the spatial sacred hall. The spatial sacred hall kept expanding. Countless spatial lines crisscrossed each other. They formed doors of space that immediately sealed off this space. Not only did they block off other people's field of vision, but their divine spirits also could not invade this space. The space was completely segregated from the outside world. Yi Futian waved his hand, and all the ritual implements instantly moved to one side. A huge empty space appeared in the center of the sacred hall. Yi Futian sat down cross-legged. With a flash of his will, a divine tree suddenly appeared in the middle of the spatial sacred hall. Its radiation enveloped the entire space, blinding everything around. Terrifying will seeped out from the world tree. The will was so powerful, Yi Futian sensed that there was something unique about the will. It seemed to be different from all the other will in the heavens and earth. When he was proving his way, he consumed the great worldly path in order to forge the divine wheel of the great path. After he had proven his way, the world tree went through some changes as well. It gave Yi Futian a feeling that he actually did not need to forge a divine wheel. This tree itself was more powerful than the divine wheel that he forged. A rustling could be heard. The world tree was transforming. It instantly became an ancient fiery red tree. Each leaf on it was scorching hot, as though they were on fire. However, the next instant, they became cold as ice, and each leaf was covered with frightening frost. After that, each leaf became extremely sharp, as though they contained invincible sharp swords. Yi Futian extended his hand, and a leaf landed in his palm. His hand swiped past, and the leaves were slashed apart. A beam of brilliant sword flash immediately lit up. The world tree could refine the ways of the world and incorporate them into its own way. Before this, when Yi Futian was in the ancestral lands of Divine Palace, he was already confident that his way was flawless. Right now, that confidence was even stronger. When he thought about it now, why was it that his way was flawless? What was the difference between different ways? What differed between a flawless divine wheel and an ordinary divine wheel? Why was it that in some extraordinary secret zones like the ancestral lands of Divine Palace and God's Relic, there was the chance of forging a flawless divine wheel? After pondering on these questions for a while, Yi Futian got up and a door opened in the spatial sacred hall. He immediately walked out. Not long after, Yi Futian and the sword master of Lihan entered into the spatial sacred hall together. The door of space closed once again. Sword master of Lihan, what are your thoughts on the issues I told you about before? Yi Futian asked. You mean regarding the fact that the heavenly path is flawed and whether or not it is impossible for current-day cultivators in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path to forge flawless ways? The sword master of Lihan guessed. It seems possible in some secret zones. I was also thinking the same thing. Sword master of Lihan, can you test the difference of our ways with me? Yi Futian asked. Sure. The sword master of Lihan nodded. Rumble. A powerful aura radiated, and countless Guqin strings seemed to appear around them. Yi Futian's divine will burst forth, and Guqin strings were everywhere. Sword will burst forth from the body of the sword master of Lihan at the same time and resisted this power. What do you notice? Yi Futian asked. Our ways are similar, the sword master of Lihan answered. Both of them had perfect divine wheels. As soon as he finished speaking, a more dazzling divine light shone. Visions appeared in the space. Twilight enveloped this endless space. The might of Yi Futian's divine wheel grew stronger. The sword master of Lihan could sense that he was being slightly suppressed. How about now? Yi Futian asked again. Your way has a unique style. I feel slightly suppressed. The sword master of Lihan was shocked. The level of Yi Futian's divine wheel was higher than the perfect level? Yi Futian said nothing. Suddenly, countless vines appeared in the spatial sacred hall. The vines spread and filled the entire space, enveloping the sword master of Lihan in them. The leaves rustled as though they were sharp swords. The sword master of Lihan felt his heart tremble. He could sense a flowing sword will that completely suppressed his own sword will. Your way is unique, the sword master of Lihan said. Yi Futian narrowed his eyes, saying, Sword master of Lihan, try absorbing the will. Okay, the sword master of Lihan nodded. Then he absorbed the will emanated by the leaves and merged it into his body. Yours is also sword will like mine. But for some reason it is different. It seems to be pure. I don't know how to explain this, the sword master of Lihan said while his heart trembled in shock. This feeling is somewhat similar to what I felt when I received the swordsmanship in Sword City, but it is different in some aspects. Yi Futian nodded his head. With just a thought, everything disappeared without a trace. However, he felt extremely uneasy inside. The ancestral lands of Divine Palace had a stone tablet. The god's relic itself was an extraordinary space. At that moment, he suddenly had a very presumptuous thought. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1662 Verification. Chapter 1662 Verification. Yi Futian's eyes revealed a look of contemplation. He thought of something related to the ancestral lands of Divine Palace and God's Relic. He recalled the conversation he had with the mysterious cultivator of Divine Palace when he was in the ancestral lands of Divine Palace. Since Divine Palace had the ancestral lands, a place where it was possible to forge flawless divine wheels, then it meant that other top forces might also have places or divine items which served a similar function like the ancestral lands of Divine Palace. At the very least, it was highly possible for the few top forces of the Central Emperor realm to have such places or items. However, the existence of such places or items would most likely be top secret, guarded by the various forces. Yi Futian recalled another incident too. Back when Shin Clan was hunting master for that divine item, Yi Futian saw the divine item in Fei Xue's body. He had always thought that his life spirit, the world tree, suppressed the divine item and healed Fei Xue. Besides that, he sensed a similar aura at that time. Now that he thought about it, could it mean that Fei Xue had inherited that divine item, so it was highly possible that she could naturally forge a flawless divine wheel? According to Grandmaster, the divine item had always been inherited by the successors appointed by Shin Clan. The successor prior to Fei Xue was Masteress. Grandmaster's wife was very likely also an owner of a flawless divine wheel. When Yi Futian thought of this, his heart quivered. His inference verified something. The world tree was an ultra-powerful life spirit similar to divine items. In that case, would the world tree have a similar function as that of the ancestral lands of Divine Palace and God's Relic? My way is unique, Yi Futian mumbled to himself. He could also sense that his life spirit, the world tree, was unique. The divine items which contain the will of Donghuang the Great seemed to have such effect as well. He could transform his life spirit into an independent space and let other cultivators refine his will within his life spirit. If the other cultivators refined Yi Futian's will in his life spirit, Would they have a similar experience as that of training in God's relic? Would they have a chance to forge a flawless divine will too? Even in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, owners of flawless divine wheels were rare. Only the selected top forces had control over the resources of the relics. Apart from that, other people could only seek their chances in God's relic. Cultivators who wielded flawless divine wheels would surely become the core members of any top force. They had absolute suppression over those cultivators who had flawed divine wheels. This was their natural advantage. Moreover, these flawless divine will owners stood a high chance of being at the peak of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path in the future. Under such circumstances, if Yi Futian could build a group of cultivators with flawless divine wheels, what did this mean for the future? It meant that tens of years from now, he could construct the strongest army in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Something was off. Yi Futian suddenly thought of something else, and he frowned slightly. Back then, only Huang Zhong entered the ancestral lands of Divine Palace. He lived up to everyone's expectation and forged a flawless divine wheel. The Divine Palace had every intention of cultivating more geniuses like Huang Zhong, but even with the help of the ancestral lands of Divine Palace, the chance of cultivators forging a flawless divine wheel was slim. Hence, the cultivators needed to at least be qualified to enter the ancestral lands of Divine Palace before they could think about forging a flawless divine wheel. It was the same situation when they were in God's relic. Only a few had succeeded. Even monstrous figures like the seventh slayer of Clan of the Seven Slayers failed. Lien Jiuyo from the clan of the God of Ghost failed too. Both of them forged celestial-level divine wheels instead of flawless divine wheels. Top forces like Shen Clan and Tianshan Academy would have this kind of secret zone divine items too. However, Yi Futian had not heard of these forces having many cultivators with flawless divine wheels. This meant that even with the help of the secret realm of the relic, one would need to consider their talents when they wanted to break through the threshold and forge a flawless divine wheel. It was not an easy feat. Yi Futian speculated that in terms of the way, the relic in the ancestral lands of Divine Palace was most likely less complete than God's relic. God's relic might be the highest-ranked secret zone. One would have the highest chance of forging a flawless divine wheel when they were there. Hence, the opening of God's relic caused all the top figures in the 9 realms to gather. All the monstrous figures wanted to get into God's relic. Then, if he utilized the world tree as a divine item, what result would it produce? Yi Futian's gaze turned towards the Sword Master of Lihan. Sword Master of Lihan, you managed to forge a flawless divine will because you destroyed and reconstructed your original one and reforged your swordsmanship? Yi Futian asked. The Sword Master of Lihan nodded his head and said, if I didn't do it that way, I should not have been able to forge a flawless divine wheel. This was crucial. Yi Futian thought to himself. When cultivators trained, they already comprehended the will of the Great Path when they reached the peak of the Saint Plain. They proved their way and became Renhuang in order to reach the core of the way. They would become their way with just a thought and would forge a body of the way and soul of the way. They would shine as bright as the moon and the stars. They would enjoy longevity with the heavens and earth. That meant that in order to forge a flawless divine wheel, the cultivators would need to refine their great path again. What are you thinking about? The Sword Master of Lihan asked Yi Futian. Yi Futian seemed to be pondering on something. I am thinking about some things. However, I still need to verify them, Yi Futian replied. He retracted his aura. The spatial sacred hall then disappeared, and everything returned to normal. I will make a trip to Daozong Peak, Yi Futian said. Be on your way. The Sword Master of Lihan nodded. Yi Futian got up and left the palace, heading once again to Daozong Peak. Many people in Tianshan Academy heard about the divine visions that occurred when he was forging his divine wheel. They were even more interested in Yi Futian. This Yi Futian actually came once more to Daozong Peak. Regardless of how talented he was in his cultivation journey, he was, at the very least, extremely hardworking. Yi Futian spent a few days studying on Daozong Peak. However, this time was different from the previous one. He kept searching for manuscripts that were related to space, be they cultivation methods or matrix methods. Based on what the members of Tianshan Academy said, they had seen Yi Futian in a daze many times over the last few days. He sat alone in a corner with his eyes closed and deep in thought, as though he had fallen asleep. However, it was obviously impossible that he had actually fallen asleep. They knew that Yi Futian must have had some epiphany and was cultivating. After another few days, Yi Futian left Daozong Peak. Some people were curious as to what exactly he was doing. After some time, some people claimed that a grand matrix had appeared in Yi Futian's palace. This grand matrix was a matrix that could refine the great path of all things. This type of matrix was not uncommon in Tianshan Academy. Many people would use this type of method to comprehend the power of the great path. Hence, there was nothing strange about it. For a period of time after this, Yi Futian remained cultivating in his palace all the while. He was acting rather mysteriously, but no one disturbed his cultivation. This was also the reason why Yi Futian had come to train in Tianshan Academy. He could truly seclude himself and train for a period of time here. Dou Zhao returned to the palace one day and met Yi Futian. "What's up?" Yi Futian asked when he saw Dou Zhao. "I feel like I am close to experiencing a breakthrough. These past few days, I have been exchanging blows with people at Tianshan Academy. However, very few of them are a match for me. I am a bit disappointed," Dou Zhao ranted. Confused, Yi Futian stared at him. "So, do you want to try fighting against me?" Yi Futian asked as he looked at Dou Zhao. "Get out of here." Dou Zhao's facial expression turned sullen. This fellow was already a Renhuang. Fighting against Yi Futian? Would that be similar to inviting someone to punch him? "I mean, I am close to breaking through to the Renhuang plane. Do you have any divine items from God's relic that I can borrow? I will use it and see whether I can prove my way and forge a flawless divine wheel," Dou Zhao explained to Yi Futian. Yi Futian finally understood Dou Zhao's intention. As a dignified descendant of fighting God, do you need the assistance of divine items to forge a flawless divine wheel? Yi Futian asked. Dou Zhao glared at Yi Futian. He actually had no words to refute Yi Futian. What happened to them being sworn brothers? "I will teach you a cultivation method. After you have made some progress with it, you can find me again," Yi Futian said. "Did you get it from God's relic?" Dou Zhao's eyes sparkled. "No. It is a cultivation method of the Tianhe realm. It can aid you to prove your way. After you have mastered it, you can be considered half a disciple of Sky River Temple," Yi Futian explained. "What advantages does it have?" Dou Zhao inquired. "The cultivation method of the Tianhe realm? Was it better than the cultivation method of his Dou tribe? Do you want to learn it or not?" Yi Futian threw a question back at him. Dou Zhao stared at Yi Futian suspiciously. "Do I get a reward from you if I mastered it?" Yi Futian closed his eyes and ignored Dou Zhao. "I will cultivate it," Dou Zhao said. "From now on, I will be a disciple of Sky River Temple. Your teacher is my teacher. We are sworn brothers." "Sit properly," Yi Futian ordered. Then he taught Dou Zhao the deed of thorough comprehension. "Go and practice it on your own," Yi Futian said after he finished teaching. Dou Zhao glanced at him, dumbfounded. He left afterward. Yi Futian closed his eyes and continued meditating. The world tree rustled in his body. Terrifying visions occurred in his surroundings. The heavens and the earth shifted and transformed into a space of the great path. The sun and the moon shone at the same time while the stars surrounded the space. Hopefully, Dou Zhao will succeed. Yi Futian prayed. After a few days, Dou Zhao came to look for Yi Futian again. "Did you succeed?" Yi Futian asked. "I have made some progress with it." Dou Zhao nodded. "Great." Yi Futian nodded in approval. With a shift of his will, a dazzling light of matrix shone, and the divine light enveloped the entire space, forming a domineering grand matrix. The will of the great path poured down and gushed into the grand matrix. "What are we doing?" Dou Zhao raised his head and took a look at the powerful fluctuation of the will. "For this coming training, you need to activate deed of thorough comprehension and forge a furnace of the great path," Yi Futian explained. "You need to refine the great path of all things so that you can use it for your own. You might even need to destroy the way you have cultivated before and reconstruct another body of the great path. I will help you throughout the process. Dou Zhao was extremely doubtful. He stared at Yi Futian and saw the seriousness in the latter's eyes. Dou Zhao knew that Yi Futian was not joking with him. Did Yi Futian actually obtain something in God's relic? All right, I will follow what you say. Dou Zhao nodded his head seriously and was exceptionally focused. Let us begin. Yi Futian had barely uttered these words when endless will circulated around them. Very soon, Dou Zhao sensed the space that he was in changing. The sun and the moon both appeared in the sky, and the stars revolved around them. It was as though Dou Zhao was being enveloped by an independent space. The runes of the characters Qian, Kuan, Li, and Kan orbited the sky. He could faintly hear the rustling of leaves, but he could not see any trees. It was as though this place was another dimension. Dou Zhao closed his eyes and activated his cultivation method. He released his deed of thorough comprehension and refined the way in this space. At the same time, in the world outside of this space, endless will surged into the space from all around, becoming the will of the space. What is Yi Futian doing now? The people around the palace could not help but reveal strange expressions when they sensed the intense will descending from the heavens above. Was Yi Futian causing another large commotion? It seems to be a grand matrix that is refining the great path of all things. He is activating the completed matrix. What is inside of that space? Someone noticed that the will of the great path was surging into a sealed-off space. An extremely powerful aura of the great path was flowing into it. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1663 Accepting a Disciple for His Master. Chapter 1663 Accepting a Disciple for His Master. The movement within Yi Futian's pavilion once again invited the attention of several people. This was also the reason Yi Futian chose to cultivate outside and not within Tianshan Academy. He was afraid that he would attract the attention of too many notable figures if he cultivated in Tianshan Academy. Even though he also could not hide it outside, he would attract the attention of relatively fewer people. His cultivation this time lasted several days. The swordmaster of Lihin and Yaya were outside the sealed land. The swordmaster of Lihin had his guesses when he saw the movement within the pavilion. He thought about the conversation he had with Yi Futian a few days ago. Could he be? There was a ripple in his heart. What would it mean if things were as he had guessed? Void, you're about to prove your path soon, right? The swordmaster of Lihin said to Yaya, who was by his side. Yi Futian had given her the item of the great emperor. She should be about to prove her path after she cultivated under the willow tree in God's relic. She should not be too far away from proving her path, now that she had come out and cultivated for some time. Yes. Yaya nodded. The swordmaster of Lihin smiled. He was certain that Yaya would forge a perfect divine wheel. Yi Futian had even given her the item of the great emperor. He would definitely do all he could to make sure that Yaya forged a perfect divine wheel. If his guess was right, he had only coincidentally encountered Dou Zhao. Yi Futian was using him to confirm his conjecture. What are you smiling about? Yaya asked the swordmaster of Lihin. Nothing. The swordmaster of Liban shook his head. He thought about the years when he and the sword saint of the void followed by the side of Emperor Xia. They were the two most powerful swordsmen in Emperor Xia's realm. Now, they were cultivating by Yi Futian's side and were about to forge a perfect divine wheel. All of these events were rather interesting. At this moment, Yi Futian was sitting silently within the independent sealed land. There was a terrifying aura emanating from Dou Zhao's body. The figure of an immensely radiant war god was faintly visible from within his body. It released a terrifying battle intent that enveloped the entire space. It caused the great path space to be covered in a horrifying battle aura. Rumble. The great path rumbled. Dou Zhao opened his eyes and raised his fists. He then clenched his fists and was suddenly filled with extremely wild power. His entire aura changed. When he stood up, it felt as though he was the war god reborn. I've succeeded. Dou Zhao's voice was a little excited. He had missed his opportunity to prove his path at the god's relic. However, he had succeeded in the outside world. You've succeeded. Yi Futian also smiled. He had received a confirmation for his conjecture. If that was the case, it meant that his path was unique and could assist others in forging a perfect divine wheel. That way, everyone around him would have a chance. Yi Futian knew exactly how meaningful that was. Yes. Dou Zhao nodded forcefully. Even though he was a careless person, he was extremely serious when it came to cultivation. Furthermore, he was carrying a mission. He was the future successor of the Dou tribe. If he were to fall behind the successors of the other factions, the Dou tribe would definitely be weakened in the future. It was not hard to imagine the feelings he had when he took this step forward. This person hid the fact that he had obtained the legacy of the great emperor, Dou Zhao thought. Dou Zhao had a glimmer in his eyes as he looked at Yi Futian. Elder brother. Yi Futian looked at Dou Zhao's shimmering eyes and was utterly confused. Who was his elder brother? He thought. We were siblings before, but now I've become his elder brother? The greatest thing that I, a descendant of the war god, obtained at the god's relic was getting to know you, Dou Zhao said sincerely. Yi Futian thought. All he felt was goosebumps all over his body. But, as I have said previously, you've cultivated the deed of thorough comprehension. Whether you use it or not in the future, you are considered half a member of the Sky River Temple, Yi Futian said. Your disciple pays respects to you, master, Dou Zhao bowed and greeted. Yi Futian's expression darkened. This person sure has thick skin. He thought. I'm not that old. Yi Futian stared at Dou Zhao. This person should not be younger than me, he thought. Why don't I call you my senior? Dou Zhao continued. He had to solidify their connection, be it in terms of brother or senior. Only that way would he have a status and a stake in any future benefits. Have you trained under any master? Yi Futian asked. No, I was trained by my family, Dou Zhao replied. All right, I'll take you in as a disciple under the name of my master. You shall become my junior. What do you think about that? Yi Futian said. Greetings, senior. Dou Zhao brought his hands together and instantly got into the rhythm of things. Yi Futian did not say anything. Teacher is currently trapped by the Shen clan. I'll first accept a disciple for him, he thought. The successor of the Dou clan should be rather substantial. Also, do not reveal the level of your cultivation when you go out in the future. Leave this place secretly. Don't attract any attention. Treat whatever happened here today as if it never happened, Yi Futian instructed. Understood. Dou Zhao looked at Yi Futian. He knew that Yi Futian had obtained the greatest legacy of the great emperor. He should never reveal that. Yi Futian looked at the sky. The space instantly scattered. An unparalleled amount of will penetrated Yi Futian's body. This caused Dou Zhao to have a strange expression. He asked, This is also a divine wheel. Go, Yi Futian told Dou Zhao. All right. Dou Zhao did not probe any further and immediately turned to leave. Sword Master, Yaya, Yi Futian shouted. The two of them walked over. How did it go? The Sword Master of Lihan asked. It was a success. Yi Futian nodded. The Sword Master of Lihan inhaled deeply, then finally flashed a smile. If he was given time, the youth before his eyes could transform into a top-notch figure. He might be able to become the greatest faction within the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Do you want to set up a clan? The Sword Master of Lihan asked. Yi Futian shook his head. He was the disciple of the cottage as well as the disciple of Qi Shenging. There was no need for him to set up a clan. Yaya, I'll teach you a set of cultivation techniques. Come look for me when you are gunning for the Renhuang realm, Yi Futian said. Even though Yaya had a divine item, there was a greater chance of her forging a perfect divine wheel if she had his help. Yaya gently nodded. Boss. A voice rang out in Yi Futian's brain. It was the voice of Little Condor. What is it? Yi Futian asked. 2 clan leaders are here, Little Condor replied. Yi Futian froze, then scanned through the pavilion with his divine spirit. At that instant, a mob of happiness flashed past his eyes. Let's go. Yi Futian's figure shimmered as he arrived outside the pavilion. In front of him were two dusty figures. They seemed to be hiding their aura and were acting in an incredibly ordinary manner. They were unremarkable. It was no wonder that he had not noticed them when he was chatting with the swordmaster just now. Seniors. Yi Futian let out a radiant smile when his eyes met theirs. He was elated to be able to meet the two of them here. Jiang Qingzi, the clan leader of the Jiang clan from the celestial gate of vast heaven, as well as the clan leader of the Hua clan, Hua Jiangshan. The two of them were also smiling. You've reached Renhuang. Yes. Yi Futian smiled as he nodded. Let's go. Let's talk inside. He reached out and pointed the way as he spoke. They walked into the pavilion. Have the two of you always been in the heavenly mandate realm? Yi Futian asked. Yes. Jiang Qingzi nodded. Since they caused the celestial gate to topple, how could we allow them to roam free? We even went to the Violet Heavenly Palace when the God's Relic opened some time ago. We then decided to temporarily pause whatever we were doing at the Heavenly Mandate Realm and came here after we heard about what happened to you. We thought that the people from the Celestial Gate of the Nine Realms would continuously swarm into the Central Emperor Realm when they heard your name and that this might be a good opportunity to join up with you. I was thinking that too. Yi Futian nodded. Since these two clan leaders had such a thought, the others would also think this way when they heard his name. There's one more thing. Jiang Qingzi's expression became more serious. You've joined forces with the Purple Gold Rat clan? In the battle back then, the clan leader of the Wang clan had died in battle after being ambushed by the Purple Gold Rat Emperor and the Emperor of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. There was no way that this debt could be resolved peacefully. Otherwise, they would be letting down the Wang clan, which had fought for the Celestial Gate when the Celestial Gate was facing its crisis. Don't worry, I am not that impudent, Yi Futian said. I am merely making use of them. The two of them heaved a sigh of relief. Even though they had ascertained Yi Futian's character from several past incidents, the rumors had been relentless. In fact, the Heavenly Mandate dynasty was about to engage in battle with the Purple Golden Rat clan. They felt more at ease now that they heard that Yi Futian was merely using them for his own benefit. Please follow me, Yi Futian said. The group arrived at the cultivation ground. Yi Futian summoned the spatial sacred hall from out of thin air and waved his palms at the same time. An array of radiant divine arms instantly floated within the spatial sacred hall. This was everything I obtained from the God's Relic. Please pick whatever weapons you need. They might prove useful in the future battle, Yi Futian said. All of the divine arms here were powerful divine weapons in the ancient era. The collection of the great emperor might be the best of the best. The abilities of the two clan leaders paled in comparison to the emperor of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. However, they might stand a fighting chance if they had the power of the divine arms on their side. The battle was inevitable if the Celestial Gate of vast heaven was to regain its standing in the Heavenly Mandate realm. What they were doing now was to prepare for that battle. All right. The two of them did not hold back. They sensed the assortment of weapons and chose a weapon that was suitable for them. Seniors, I have no use for these many ritual implements. Equip the offensive and defensive ritual implements, and perhaps not long after, we will be able to attack the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, Yi Futian said. The two of them turned around and looked at Yi Futian. In the God's Relic, I've joined forces with the other factions in the Heavenly Mandate realm. We are on rather decent terms. I'll find a way to continue solidifying our relationship. This battle will not be too far away, Yi Futian continued. With their previous alliance, as well as the ritual implements he had given them previously, Yi Futian believed that he now had a considerable influence over the factions of the Heavenly Mandate realm. Now that he had grasped the method of forging a perfect divine wheel, there was a chance that he would be able to pull the factions of the Heavenly Mandate realm into his camp. This was what he had to accomplish next. Jiang Qingzi and Hua Qingyun looked at each other. Each chose a ritual implement. One for offense and one for defense. That's enough, Jiang Qingzi said. Yi Futian will stay by your side after this. You've come into conflict with several factions in the Central Emperor realm and the God's Relic. You need people by your side. If that is so, thank you, seniors. Yi Futian nodded. He chose the Tianshan Academy precisely because it was relatively safer. With the two clan leaders defending him by his side, he should be able to deal with anybody attacking him even if they were from top-notch factions, as long as they weren't the best of the best. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.